sure you all are thinking about. For myself as a designer, how can I work the best with a developer? For most design systems, a designer might have a style guide, different ways that they're looking at design and thinking about it, which is probably a different approach as the developer who's in the code, thinking about the best ways, how he can modify that, how he can best engineer that, and sometimes those approaches don't line up, which can create inconsistency. I see a couple of folks nodding their heads. I'm sure you have felt that too, that friction there between them not lining up. Well, I'm excited to share some of the things that we have learned in the past couple months as we take in Center, which is the design school, and merge that with our company UIE, which has different products for professionals for UX. So online seminars, workshops, all these different products that all look, feel, and are built differently. So how did we bring those things together? How did a designer go with a developer and make the perfect hybrid, and hopefully some lessons that you all can use too? So the first thing we did was an audit. So we looked at all of our different products and we said, what's working? And let's start with the code first. As a designer, I want to think about visual first, but the code's where that really needs to go. So I worked with my developer and said, okay, what is the best practices? Where are the best standards? What is the code that you're working with and is working the best for you and our interns and our team? I can definitely take that, then see what is the most flexible grids that we can use and we can look at, and we can then implement in our other systems. So we took an audit, we looked at what was working, where we wanted to start, and then where we could be flexible. That's where I would suggest start too. Take an audit, figure out where to go next. The second part was a common language. There are so many different ideas of design systems. You can go as far as Brad Frost, who has atomic design, which is beautiful and amazing, but it's hard for me to call something an atom and then a proton and a cell. It can get so layered that if it's not something I can use on a daily basis, it's not going to work. So I actually went to my team and I said, what is this to you? What is this piece of code to you? What is this design to you? What is a button? What are these different pieces so we can build a common language? So what we came up with was anything that was visual or that could be used for print or was something that had to do with the different colors and fonts, that was the design style. So we had a document that was all for the design styles. And then we said nothing is done until it's actually in a pattern library, so it's actually code. So everything that was then, if you would look at something in the style guide, you would then code it and you would put that piece in the pattern library. So you could say, okay, I'm working on this site, it's got this type of navigation and it needs these different button styles. You could see that in the design style, but then you would go to the pattern library to actually grab that. So that way someone wasn't looking over and over again at the different styles and making it their own. They were going to that pattern library that was all put together in our company's Git, and then they could all see that and they could grab that. So that was the next part, having that common language. The third part was actually making these more flexible grid systems and making the things that we actually need and see. So we had all these different pages with different layouts, different use cases for them, and we had to figure out where are we going to use them. So we start with what we do for personas, which is user outcomes. If you want the outcome of our user to be to read a list of articles that they want to read, or their outcome is to sign up for a workshop, that's an outcome, that's a page design. So we would make these different grid systems that would become the patterns for the pattern libraries based on user outcomes. It can get kind of tricky, but it was always the best case for our users and what they needed, and it helped us guide for what we should design. And the last part is process. So we would get really excited, and I would give our different interns different things to build, and I would get excited to design stuff, but there's pieces everywhere. And it was making our repository and our Git library just sort of massive, and double work was happening. So we came up with this process of build, make a prototype, review it, test it, actually do usability testing, document it, and then push it. So all of us would go through that together. We actually have weekly design meetings where on Wednesdays at 10 o'clock, if you want to review something with me, if you built that prototype, let's review it. We'll do that on Wednesday, and then we'll have time later that week to test it. We think that it's great, document it, push it. We had to build these process. For me, I love process. It's what gets me excited, and I think for some of us DevOps people, we're kind of similar that way. We love process, right? So having those set steps really helped us to not just have this overwhelming thing. So if you'd like to talk more about ways how you can make your design systems and what's your perfect dev design hybrid, I'd love to talk about it. It's what I geek on. So help to find me, and thanks for Lightning Talk.
Thank you, Summer.